A few months ago, I made a video called Capres Review where I explored every single presidential candidate that is running for office in Indonesia. Now, having already selected running mates and consolidated coalitions of parties, I believe I need to make a newer video to list the details of each one of the presidential candidates. If you still don't know who to pick and want to know their deepest, darkest secrets or their shining achievements, follow me as I unpack each of the presidential candidates, their running mates, and the parties that are supporting them. Welcome back to the Basic Indonesian Show, where we talk about Indonesian politics. It's a few days away from the start of open campaigns where parties and presidential candidates are allowed to campaign their false promises and red herring to gain the votes of the ignorant Indonesian population. You're probably somebody like me, someone who doesn't know who to vote because each one of the candidates are dog shite. But looking at Mahfud MD's quote about elections, that elections are not to elect good leaders, but is to prevent bad leaders from taking power. It is important that we elect the least bad leader. If logic goes, when exactly do we actually get a good leader then? Never! Indonesia will never have a good and kind-hearted leader who knows what the people want and always smiles in the face of opposition, since Suharto. So what kind of leaders do we have now? Let's take a look. The first choice is former Jakarta governor Anies Baswedan and religious businessman Imin. Anies Baswedan is a Western-educated hypocrite that kinda looks like Senator Armstrong, who has fallen sick to the illness of all smart men, identity politics, and intolerance. He also can't work 9-hour shifts. His running mate is none other than Muhaimin Iskandar, aka Imin, the chairman of the National Awakening Party. A former religious scholar turned politician under Gus Dur who realized he can make plenty of money by just supporting other parties instead of taking the forefront. Parties that make up this coalition includes a strange mix of the socially progressive National Democratic Party, the Islamic Moderate National Awakening Party, the Islamic Fundamentalist Prosperous Justice Party, the Islamic Social Justice Ummah Party, and the Revive Islamic Extremist Masyumi Party. The coalition is masterminded by Surya Paloh and is built around Anies Baswedan and anti-Jokowi policy platforms. They believe that Jokowi has sold the country to China as a result of debt and infrastructure development and want to reverse many of his policies that are believed to be unpatriotic. At first, the coalition attracted other parties such as the Democratic Party who are more opposed to Jokowi's position as the struggle party's crony. But when it's clear that Anies didn't find any use for AHY, he accepted Imin's proposal as his date, leaving AHY to be dropped from this season of The Bachelor Indonesia. AHY, being the scorned teenage girl he is, reacted by shredding all their pictures together. Don't hate the player, AHY, hate the game. After the Democrats' exodus from the coalition, a bunch of other crack Islamic factions decided to join up the coalition. Suddenly, the bourgeoisie National Democrats were surrounded by the stark raving Islamists, and it became less about wanting to reverse Jokowi's policy but turning Indonesia into an Islamic caliphate to rescue Palestine. The coalition platform and conundrum is rather strange. The leading party of the coalition, the National Democrats, are supposedly a socially progressive and economically liberal party whose members consist of businessmen and other plutocrats. Meanwhile, the two of the other main members of the coalition are the National Awakening Party, which is Imin's party, and the Prosperous Justice Party. The latter two's sudden alliance in Indonesian politics is very strange and is considered by many to be an unholy matrimony. You see, the National Awakening Party is a political vehicle for the Nahdlatul Ulama, which is an Islamic social organization that stresses moderate Islamic views, syncretization of traditional mores with Islamic teachings, and preserving traditionalist Islamic teachings. Meanwhile, the Prosperous Justice Party is influenced through its members by the Muhammadiyah Society, another Islamic NGO that advocates for a more literal interpretation of the Quran and Islam, fundamentalist Islamic views, and mixes Islam with secular education. The two have opposing perspectives regarding a lot of things, from how Indonesian Muslims should practice their Islam and their views regarding education. So their alliance through joining the Coalition for Change comes as a shock for a lot of people. I guess it's time for a greener Indonesia. The coalition faced a lot of criticism from indulging in political identity that threatens to fracture Indonesian majority from its minority and lack of substance purely because their alliance is grounded from the fact that they hate Jokowi. Another criticism they face to their electability is through the arrest of government ministers Johnny G. Plate and Syaril Limpo for embezzling funds. Both are members of the National Democratic Party, and their cases threatened the National Democratic Party's position on the race. Their cases came to light after the National Democrats were fully committed to uneasy. Coincidence? It's like somebody held all their cards and decided to open them up when they became a thorn. But yeah. To dispel the accusations, Anies is pro-integration and has worked with Ahok's former wife Veronica Tan in strengthening ties with the Chinese-Indonesian community in Jakarta. He has revitalized spots in Jakarta and has also made Jakarta more pedestrian-friendly. Notable Indonesian figures here includes Ahmad Syaiqo, Willy Aditya, Amin Rais, Ridho Ramadi, Ahmad Sahroni, Prananda Suryapalo, Rahmat Gobel, Taufik Basari, and Sunarko. This coalition is primarily supported by the hardcore Islamic demography, anti-Chinese crowds, and nativist movements. And there are also rumors that the coalition is backed by the United States, owing to Anies's close ties to the US, which makes a lot of sense since America is wary of China. So vote for them if you want a stronger Indonesia where we literally have to fight for our ideals and go jihad every day. I'm just kidding.
Subscribe to the Based Indonesian Show. Dijamin halal